Okay, Robbie here with Goa. We've just finished lunchtime classes and it's time for our mat chat. So, questions filled in from here. Great one came in. The question was about having done multiple disciplines of martial arts and achieving high levels of rank, black belt in multiple disciplines. So myself coming from karate, participating in boxing, yourself Muay Thai, and then going to Jiu-Jitsu as well. The question is, what advice would you give your younger self if you had to redo your journey again?
I guess you just got to be open-minded. Be prepared to get submitted by people you think you wouldn't get submitted by. And just it's like that cliche saying, check your ego at the door. There is no ego. You got to come in here. It's such a safe environment. I think it really matters though which culture you go into.
Yeah.
Some gyms are a little bit different, but I mean when I came in here specifically, I felt so safe.
Yeah.
And then there was no egos. Everyone was super helpful, and you just have to remember where you started within your own discipline.
Yeah.
It took you 15 years, like me 15 years in Muay Thai to get to where I was. It's probably going to take me the same in Jiu-Jitsu, and just having that mentality just helped, I think.
And that's a really interesting thing just to point out, right, is when you have already done a discipline, I think starting another discipline can actually sometimes be harder. Often I was told, is it easier because you've got a background and something to move on to?
Yes.
And I actually think sometimes it can be more challenging because your ego is in position because you have skills or so forth that don't always immediately connect straight over to the new skill that you're picking up on. But in your brain, you're like, well, I'm proficient in this. So I guess I had that experience with boxing because I went from karate to boxing, and in karate there's no hook punches. So I'm there and I'm lined up, and this guy hits me with a hook. I was like, where did that come from? And my eyes and it was a big learning curve to be like, oh man, okay, I'm comfortable and confident in this situation. I'm not so comfortable or confident in this situation. And that was a really interesting thing to go through. So one thing we were chatting about this morning after Master Cycle is the statement that people may have heard where comparison is the thief of joy. It's when you start a new martial art and you're going in, I think the one thing I'd tell my younger self is don't compare yourself to other people. Don't look at what other people are doing on the mat and say I do that, or don't compare what other people are doing on Instagram and I need to do that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's what do you actually have to compare yourself to, right? And I remember this great story about this guy, and he was a track and field coach, and he was helping this young girl get ready for junior track and field, and they're together for 2 months and they're training every day and they're doing the sprints, and they finally come across to her meet. And she goes out and she finished the race and she came last. And she goes to her coach, hey, I'm really sorry I disappointed you. I'm really sorry I let you down. I'm really sorry I came last. And he's like, you didn't come last. He's like, you came 8 seconds. And she's like, what? And she's like, you came 8 seconds. And next race, we're going to try and get 7.9 seconds. And it's like, yeah, right. It changes the way you think about things. It's so if I'm doing Jiu-Jitsu, I don't think now, if I roll with somebody who is able to control me in a particular position, or isolate or limit a particular position, or even complete a submission in a particular position, in my head, I'm not oh, blah, 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 caught me. I was today, my arm got isolated 3 times. So my next goal is to not allow it to get isolated twice from here. Or I got caught with that choke 5 times in today's training session. My goal tomorrow is to make sure it happens 4 times.
I think also you got to think about just making yourself be better in certain aspects rather than just all right, I gotta be better than that guy, or just I gotta be better than myself, or just have that mindset of just always learning. And if you're always picking up new skills and being 1% better every day, you're gonna get there too.
And if your goal is to train for a lifetime, then that's going to improve no matter what, right? So we're in it for a long time and a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
But you made a really good point in that when people do step onto the mat, to compare yourself against somebody else's skill set is not correct as well, because they may have been there for a class that you weren't there for, so they've got more adapt skills at mount controls, but you turned up 5 days a week, 3 weeks in a row for mount escapes, so your escapes are rock solid, but because they had one control, then you start to doubt your abilities. It's such a silly thing.
Try not to let it compare yourself, and you just go your own journey, rather than comparing to somebody else's journey, because sometimes you start at the same time with someone, but then you see them fast tracking themselves, they're like, oh, they're going so, kind of don't let it discourage you. you know, because everyone's life is different.
And this is so important as well, right? When you feel like your training partners are fast tracking, they're growing in a particular skill set. But as you continue to roll, you're picking up more of the defenses to it. And what will happen is they plateau. And then you grow. And then you start to overtake. And then you'll start to plateau. And then they'll start to grow. So when people think it's happening is this, they're like a roller coaster like this. But it's not actually happening like that. It's actually happening where it's like ba ba ba, shh, ba ba ba, shh, ba ba ba, shh, ba ba ba. But we're all growing together to go through. So a rising tide raises all ships. If you keep working with each other, that's where people can get frustrated. And they can be like, oh, it's not working out for me, I'm not good at this, or I need to, study new material, I need to change locations. And it's like, really, no, you just don't understand where you are in your journey because you haven't gone through that process of learning. And really, for most people, the last time they did something that vast and that in-depth is childhood at basic school. And you're like learning at such a rapid rate, but you don't realize you're learning because you're just engaged in the process and you just go through. And as an adult, you're doing that. You don't recognize what learning is or how learning works. So you're having a lot of misunderstandings or poor evaluations of yourself based on something that you don't have a knowledge about, which is like how people learn when the growth of learning.
I'd probably tell myself as well, like, focus more on defensive or putting yourself in the defensive positions, because like the more comfortable you are in that, then you're going to be like, that's your best offense, is like being comfortable defensively rather than trying to get to the submission at the start. You know, people try to submit everything. They try to submit. That's like
they want to win training rounds that have no value. Nobody's going home and pulling out their little black book and be like, "Go, call me in this submission today." Like really,
put yourself in those positions.
People go home and they either go like, "Man, I had a really fun time with those guys." They're like, "Man, people really didn't look after me today. I didn't feel safe." So like when you're there, if you just focus on defense first, really build that skill, you're going to feel more confident going for attacks. But also, if you realize that the submission is not the end goal of a training session, but the end goal is to actually upskill yourself, well, then you need to put yourself in vulnerable positions. Because that's the only way you can upskill yourself. Beautiful. So if we were to sit back and reflect at the end of the day about our jiu-jitsu journey, what would we tell our younger selves? It comes down to have fun, care less, focus on skill development, and get to a good culture where you feel like you can grow. Match out complete. Hands like this. One finger up. Hey.